first of all, think about these strengths. Here are the 24 character strengths. And consider which strength have you celebrated most this year? And if you're inclined to do it, if you're inclined to go into Menti, you'll be able to share that on the next slide. We're building a word cloud, so it will be anonymous. Oh, sorry, we want the number again. So hopefully most of you are fairly familiar with the strengths and you'll be able to remember. So the code is 60 48 72 8. And if you want to share the character strength, actually I said today, which character strength are you celebrating today? So I'm going to try and stay consistent with my questions. So if it, and you can put 2 or 3 in, it doesn't have to be one. Most of us are using multiple strengths together. So we'll just give it a few minutes. If you, yeah, I see people are putting it into the chat as well. So that is fine. And what I will do is I'll take the chat later and combine it with this word cloud. So we're seeing all sorts of strengths coming up here. Courage, kindness, perseverance. Perseverance is a big one. And remember, with these word clouds, the words that show up biggest and boldest are the ones that most people are picking, or more people are picking. And we're seeing in the chat, we've got gratitude, fairness, curiosity, some more courage, perseverance. So more coming up. So this is absolutely wonderful. So I started to think about how I was going to celebrate my birthday today. And I began with my character strengths profile. And of course, typically we go to the top. So I think of this as a kind of meditation. And I'm actually going to use a bell to start us off. And I actually have one today. All right. So what I do many days, not every day, is I actually work through the character strengths one by one and meditate on how I'm going to use those character strengths each day. And as I was thinking about that today on my birthday, I thought I actually want to think about what I've been doing with character strengths all year. And it's easy to go to those signature strengths and think about what have I been doing with those? How have those signature strengths helped me? But as I was doing that, I thought I want to review the whole profile, and I actually want to go in the opposite direction. I want to think about those strengths that I don't usually engage. And I'm going to start from the bottom. And it's, as I say, instead of this meditation where I just go strength by strength and plan what I'm going to do, this is more a reflection on what I have done. And as we do this, you think about each of the strengths in turn and how they have contributed to you this year. Oh, don't know if you can hear that. So the first strength that I started out with was self-regulation, number 24 for me. And interestingly, as I scan this page and I scan the chats, it doesn't seem like it's coming up for many people. And I thought about self-regulation and I thought about 2020. And I realized self-regulation is one I want to celebrate. This is a year where I could have got incredibly fat. I could have spent my year in a stupor from wine and vodka. I could have given up all the usual things that I do. I could have been cavalier when I wanted to go out and meet with people and just gone out regardless. I could have expressed my every thought about what was going on in the world, going on with our politics, but I chose. I thought about how I was going to interact with each of those, in each of those situations. So I realized I want to celebrate my self-regulation, my number 24 is still there. Now, number 23 for me is love. Being loved and loving others. That is my number 23 strength. And as I looked at the list and I thought about this year, I realized I have made some of the most amazing connections of my life during 2020. In this imperfect, clunky, weird way, I've made new connections over the internet, via Zoom. I've met all these wonderful people in United in Strengths. And we haven't just been united in strengths for you. You've been united in strengths for us. And we've felt that love and connection. And I have a group of people that I have connected with as coaches. And we've come together and formed this bond that is like no other team bond I've ever experienced. And I realized there it is, my number 23, up front and center in a year that has been so difficult. So I want to celebrate love. Perseverance. That is not one of my top strengths. It is number 22, sorry, it's number 22. And yet, how did any of us move through this year without perseverance? How did anyone start the year and finish the year with maybe with all the loved ones still around us, maybe having lost people, having lost jobs, but certainly having lost a lifestyle that we were used to. Everybody, I think, has lost that. But we've kept putting one foot in front of another. We've kept showing up on a Monday. We've kept sharing these moments with each other and then probably taking it out and persevering with sharing that with other people, even the people who drive us crazy. And I realized that perseverance, that number 22 strength, the one that I really don't attribute to me at all, it's been there. It's been my strength of 2020. So I want to celebrate that. Humility, number 21. I'm a little embarrassed to admit that humility is down there at number 21. At the same time, I recognize that humility is typically down in the low 20s. And so, or in the 20s or low down on people's profiles. And I thought, okay, maybe I don't show as much humility as others, and I'm going to be humble about that. I'm going to just accept that that is how I've been. It doesn't have to be how I continue to be. But humility is there, that awareness of the value that other people bring, and that showing what you're worth rather than telling what you're worth, and having that sense of who you are and how important you are. So number 20 is humor. Now, I'll admit that in previous surveys, humor has been higher. I think my humor has been a little taxed this year, as has many other people's. But I'm one of those people that sees humor in so many things. I even see humor in that, but of all things, humor has gone to number 20. So as soon as I reflected on that, I thought, I'm going to celebrate humor now in this moment. And I went and found a couple of funny videos and watched these funny videos to get myself laughing. I visited with a friend today and we celebrated humor because we laugh at the silly stuff. We laugh at the fact that I have a pair of new shoes because my husband ordered shoes for himself online and didn't realize he was ordering a lady's size 9. Did not know until he tried to cram his feet into these shoes. There's humor in that. And I realized that even though it may have sunk low, I still see humor in things. I laugh at what the rabbits do. At the moment, they're chewing a box behind me. I still see humor and playfulness and fun in the things that I see in our backyard, and they make me smile. So humor's still there. It may have been tested a little bit this year, but I celebrate the fact that even though it's been tested, it's still there and I can still sense it. Prudence, that's my number 19. The planning strength. Typically a higher strength in project managers. Not me. I'm not your planning project manager. I am your implementation project manager. So I guess there's some humor in that as well. But I've been prudent this year. I've planned. I've stuck to my plan. I've had to plan the most basic things, as have many of you. No more, I'm going to pop to the store and get this because I need it. Now I go and I need several things and I have to have a mask, and do I have my hand sanitizer, and am I going to have everything I need to be safe, and is everyone else going to have everything they need to be safe, and lots of planning in the most basic activities. Prudence is there. Good old number 19. Prudence has stood by me in this year. Honesty, number 18. Now that doesn't mean I am dishonest. It just means that honesty isn't the most driving quality in me. It's not my go-to. I have had some extremely honest conversations with people, painfully honest conversations with people this year, including my husband right before COVID started. And I think I shared that in a previous session, but we weren't getting along very well just before COVID. And we acknowledged that, we were honest about it, we tackled it. And thank goodness by the time we were in lockdown, we actually quite liked each other. So that was a big benefit. But it started with honesty. It started with that honest reflection that, you know what, the way things are right now is not how we want them to be. Honesty, number 18, key to me making it through 2020. Well, certainly key to my husband making it through 2020 alive. So a little bit more humor there. Is kind of a British dark humor, but it's still humor. 17, perspective. Now, I feel that perspective is something that I do bring, but I realize I often bring it for other people more than myself. And so as I've gone through this year and things sometimes have been overwhelming, there's been COVID, the politics, the health, you name it, there's been something going on with the world literally has seemed like it's on fire, because parts of it have been on fire. With all of those things going on, it can be hard to maintain perspective and feel that anything that you're doing is worth bothering with. And yet I realize if I don't do the things I do, I'm not contributing what I can. And that perspective, I've lent on that this year many, many times, to be able to say, I'm going to keep going forward. I can't fix some of these really big things, but I may be able to help someone else address some small thing, which puts them in a better position to navigate what's going on in the world. And that's my motivation. 16, judgment. Another one where I feel like I do have judgment, that weighing up strength, that critical thinking, but I'm blessed with a husband that is over endowed with judgment. And so I feel pretty good about using this as one that I collaborate on. I need some perspective and judgment from him. I have a friend who's very high in judgment and perspective as well. I get together with them and say, let me run this past you. The perfect collaboration opportunity. So I feel good about judgment in that position. 15 is kindness. I would like to think it's a little higher than that. And yet when I see what's ahead of it, I'm not really so surprised, because kindness is there. I feel it. I want to do things for other people. I also want to express self-kindness. I've learned a lot about that in this year. 15 is good enough. If self-regulation was there at 24, kindness is well there at 15. So I'm celebrating that. Teamwork. I work with people all the time. I've mentioned this great team that I've got together with on the coaching side. I work with a fantastic team at VIA. I work with other teams in other contexts, in project management, the chapter of our professional organization, lots and lots of teams, people at CALM that are volunteers, lots and lots of teams. And that teamwork is essential, that partnering. And that sort of goes for me with the humility of being able to say, it doesn't always have to be me that controls this or decides this, or there are other people with skills, and there are other people with knowledge, and there are other people with perspective. And I'm going to lean on those people and share the decision making and the process with everyone else. And I love that. And there it is, side by side, leadership is number 13. So when the moment occurs where a decision needs to be made and we're struggling, I can be that person. If we need to get organized on something, I can prioritize. I can say, all right, let's start with something. What's the first thing that we're going to do? Usually I'll still work with the team on that. So leadership is there. And I feel like in the middle of my profile, that's a pretty good place for it. It's there if I need it, but it's not something that I'm forcing upon people all the time. 12 is social intelligence. Pretty good that it's around the same place as teamwork and leadership, because then I use my social intelligence to know which is it that I most need in this moment. Is this a time to collaborate and work with other people? Or is this a time where people actually more than anything want someone to step up and say, here's what we're going to do, or here's the first thing to look at? So I'm happy with my social intelligence at 13. At 12. 11, love of learning. I have learned so much this year. I've learned from you. I've learned from my fellow coaches. I've read, I don't know how many books. I've learned new tools online. I have learned from television programs I've watched. I've watched the kind of programs that I never normally have time for because I'm usually running around. Now all of a sudden I know things like polar bears aren't white and octopuses have 8 brains, and so many things that I've learned this year, even though this was a horrible year in many ways. Creativity. Now, Ryan will say that I am a creative person. I don't see that myself, but a couple of times things have come up this year where people have said, ooh, that's such a creative solution, or you're creative, Ruth. And you know what? This year, I've allowed myself to celebrate that and just thank people and say, I'm glad you think so, and I'm glad I was able to help, and stop judging and saying, well, I'm not really that creative. So there it is, number 10, creativity. The real surprise to me is, as much as humor had gone down, spirituality is now number 9. My sense of the bigger picture, my sense of being part of something more than me, my sense that what I do matters to other people, and what other people do matters to me. And it's not just about people, it's about everything in the world and that connection. Like, you know, I've mentioned in other sessions that I like to go and touch the bark on trees and appreciate trees, and because I'm feeling that connection to other things, including my crazy rabbits who are now throwing bells around on the floor. Zest, number 8. Proud of my zest at number 8. Always the person who's pretty energetic, even when things are feeling pretty negative. And I feel like that's a good thing. Hopefully I don't overdo it. Sometimes I know there are people who say, you know, can you just dial it back a little bit? But I'm celebrating my zest. My zest got me through this year. My zest has helped me be upbeat and positive, or at least energetic in what I've done. Not always upbeat, but energetic and enthusiastic about doing things and getting things done. So I am really, really pleased with my zest. I'm celebrating my zest in 2020. And forgiveness. This has been a year of letting many things go. Just deciding what's really important and not getting all hung up on something that maybe in the past I would have got hung up on, and maybe I would have made a big thing out of. And now I can acknowledge it, tell people, and move on. So my forgiveness has moved up. And I think 2020 has contributed that to me, that I have realized there are bigger things than some of the stuff that used to bother me. And so I can be more forgiving. Number 6, hope. Not always easy to maintain in these difficult times, that there is something brighter ahead of us, that we can do something. And one of the things I love about hope is, and it's Shane Lopez that his book, Making Hope Happen, is one of my favorite books about hope, because he talks about the 2 components of hope. There's that forward looking, what we can accomplish, what's going to be positive in the future. And there's taking action. It isn't just about crossing your fingers or being optimistic or saying it'll be okay on the day or any of those things. It's about having that vision of what's going to be, and then saying, okay, what's the first step I'm going to take towards it? What's the first thing I can do towards it? What's the next step after that? And hope is something that in my darkest times gets me through. And we've had some of our darkest times so far in 2020, and I've no idea what might come in 2021. So now we get into my top 5. So having gone through and celebrated all these ones that are lower down in my profile, I'm super excited to get to my top 5, because they're the ones I think of all the time. But I'm already celebrating. Happy birthday to me. Even if you took my top 5 strengths away, I'm doing pretty well with the other 19. But number 5 is appreciation of beauty and excellence. And this year, I've changed the way I appreciate beauty and excellence. New things seem like excellence. The science that we've seen come out this year is excellence. And And some of it is the science we haven't seen come out. So people's ability to say, we thought this was going to work, but actually it isn't, and we can't go forward with it, or we have to pause because there's some dubious results. That's excellence as well. It's not all about achieving. It's also about saying, whoa, we're not seeing the evidence that what we thought was going to be true is true, and really testing our hypotheses. So that goes with love of learning as well. So that's my appreciation of excellence. And then beauty, I have spent so many hours watching the birds and checking the trees and seeing the leaves and looking at the sky and just getting outside and being able to look up and see the trees and the sky above me and just appreciate that. So that has been key to me keeping going one day after another. Number 4 is bravery. And I hasten to add that I think practically everybody we know has in some way or other been brave this year. Little b bravery. We have all faced things that seem too difficult to do, or harder than we imagined, or not something we ever thought we would have to think about. And here we are. All of you who are in the room with me today, 85 people, thank you for that, because you've been brave all year, and so have the people that you've seen around you. And I'm not talking about running into burning buildings, although we've seen that. We saw the people in Nashville who went into the buildings to evacuate people before the RV blew up. Amazing, super, brave, wonderful. But there are small acts of bravery too. Like, for some people, going shopping in a grocery store has taken bravery. Or going to work every day. People who do not have the liberty of saying, I'll work from home, have had to go to work every day to feed their families. That is brave. They're exposing themselves in ways I haven't had to. So bravery, I think, has been so core to everybody, and so many people don't appreciate that they have bravery. Curiosity goes with my love of learning. I am painfully curious about lots of things. It's probably one of the strengths that I overuse. I hear something new, I want to know about it. People will tell me about new pieces of software. Oh, this is a really great piece of software for building community. And I'm like, I want to get a copy and I want to play around with it. And I've come to realize over the year, and actually this year, what it's shown me is there's value in balancing my curiosity. So I've learned about not letting it run rampant, because this has been a year where I've been home a lot. And so the idea that I could just research things and go online and check some, of course, it feels like I could keep doing that forever, but not if I actually want to get anything done. So I've had to learn balance, and I appreciate that. I celebrate that 2020 has been a year where I've learned that curiosity is something that is great. It is wonderful. It's gratifying, and it's something to watch out for, to just make sure that I'm not letting it run away with everything I need to do. Fairness is my number 2. Show me a person being what I think is unfair, and I'll show you a fight waiting to happen. I am one of those people who is not very tolerant of what I perceive to be unfair. And so a lot of what I've seen this year has seemed unfair. The access that some people have to healthcare compared to other people, the way that we've reacted to certain things in this country compared to the way other places have reacted, the people who have suffered the most because of that, all of those things, it seems grossly unfair to me. And I'm okay with acknowledging that, and I'm motivated by it. So fairness is something that in 2020 has motivated me to learn things, to read things, to have new conversations with people, to reach out to people and ask them what is going on for them, and not to assume that I know what's going on. And what seems unfair to me may not be important to someone else, and just learning about what's fair and unfair to other people. And one of the big things I learned this year was this sort of idea of, for some people, they can't take care of others until they feel okay themselves, that they're safe and they have what they need. And then for other people, they can't feel okay themselves until they've made sure everyone around them is okay. And neither of those perspectives is bad or good, right or wrong. It's just a different starting point. It doesn't mean that either party doesn't care about other people. It just means that one is made to feel better by making sure the people around them are feeling okay. And someone else is like, you know what? I don't have the resources until I know me and mine are okay. And that was a big learning thing for me this year, to do with collectivism and individualism and gratitude. there are so many things that I am grateful for this year, that this is the top strength. 2020, I'm grateful that I've used strengths in new ways. I'm grateful that self-regulation has been a strength that I have exercised 10 times as much as I normally would, maybe 100 times more. I am grateful that I've learned to be more forgiving and to see that some things just, it's not worth the energy. I am grateful that I feel a deeper connection to a bigger something. But I'm not particularly saying God or a higher power, but I feel this spiritual connection to things. I'm grateful for that. So gratitude is in every single one of these things. So I am celebrating today all 24 strengths as we approach the end of 2020 and we go into a year that we don't know what's going to happen. There is light at the end of the tunnel with the vaccine, but this is life and this is the world, and who knows what could happen next. So I'm going in with hope. I'm going in with gratitude. I'm enormously grateful for every resource that I have, which includes people and a good home and my pets and my husband and friends and family and everything. I'm grateful for the experiences I have, the connections I have. And so gratitude is my number one. And it's gratitude that helps me to appreciate and celebrate every single strength in my profile. So this is a little different than my usual meditation, where I would meditate on what am I going to do with these strengths. This was meditating on the reflection of what have I done in 2020. And there isn't a strength in the 24 character strengths that I'm not thankful for, and that that the year was not made better by. There isn't a strength where I can say, I wish I didn't have that because 2020 would have felt better. And there isn't a strength that I didn't use. So with that, I'm going to invite you at the end of this little contemplation to consider, as we've reviewed all the strengths, and I think I touched on every one, what was a strength that you recognized that has been important that maybe you had overlooked? Or maybe it's a strength that you're going to celebrate now that you hadn't thought to celebrate previously. Maybe it's a strength that you'll focus on for 2021 that isn't one of your go-to strengths. So isn't that interesting? So perseverance is still there, but perseverance was right in the middle and was one of our strongest ones. And now we're seeing other strengths come up. Self-regulation, perseverance is still there, appreciation of beauty and excellence. So, and we had many, many strengths before. And this is just an invitation to think about embracing those strengths that you don't necessarily give much thought to. Doesn't mean you don't give time to them. It turns out I gave time to most of my strengths. Just appreciating those strengths that kind of sneak in and are there and supporting you, even when you don't necessarily think of them as being a strength that you lean on. The name of the book on hope, and thank you for all the messages in the chat. I'm sorry I haven't been able to sort of review them all, but the name of the book that I talked about was Making Hope Happen by Shane Lopez, Lopez. We've got people who want to develop certain strengths. So Pierre says that he wants to develop his Zest because it's number 24. And look what I discovered. I developed my self-regulation this year without even focusing on it. I just had to. And it's now, it feels like self-regulation is something more that I have a handle on and that I can use when I need it. So thank you for sharing all of this. I'm actually going to stop the screen share. I will share these word clouds with everyone, and I'll incorporate the words that came into the chat.